What's up guys, DarkArmedDuelist Integrity doing a Fusion Festival Master Duel Fluffal for Frightfur deck profile. So I'm really excited for you guys because this deck is an amazing fusion deck that basically takes really cute creatures and turns them into crazy looking powerful boss monsters and can completely OTK your opponent really easily. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like in your name description every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your Patreon, along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Fluffal Dog, which is pretty much the Stratos of the deck. And if this card is normal or special summoned from your hand, you can add an Yugioh Sabers or a Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this card. This card is absolutely insane as a 3 of the deck because it gets you to the exact pieces that you need to go in for all of your boss monsters. We then play 3 copies of Fluffal Penguin. Fluffal Penguin is one of my favorites in the entire deck because it has the ability that during the main phase you can special summon a Fluffal monster from your hand, except another copy of this card. And this effect can only be used while this card is face up on the field. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon of a Frightfur fusion monster, you can draw 2 cards and then discard a card, which helps you get even more combo pieces to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Fluffal Bear. Fluffal Bear is a really good card to see in your hand because it has the ability you can send it from your hand to the graveyard to set a toy vendor directly from your deck to your spell and trap card zone, and then you contribute this card to target a polymerization in your graveyard and add it back to your hand, which is always a really powerful effect to be able to recover polymerization so you can go in for more fusion plays. We then play 2 copies of Fluffal Wing. You really only need 2 copies of this card, and it's a really good 2-up, and it has the ability, if this card's in the graveyard and you control a toy vendor, you can manage this card from the graveyard and then target a Fluffal monster in your graveyard and banish that card. If you do, draw a card, and then you can send a toy vendor you control to the graveyard, and if you do that, you get to draw a card, which is really good. That basically you just banish this and a Fluffal to be able to draw 2 cards and send your toy vendor to graveyard, which will also get you a search, which is just absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of Fluffal Dolphin. Fluffal Dolphin is a good 1-of in my opinion. Let you target a toy vendor in the graveyard and set it back to the field, and if you do, send a Fluffal monster or an Yugioh Sabers from your deck to the graveyard. And if this card is sent to the graveyard as a fusion material for a fusion summon, you can shuffle into the deck one of your fusion spells or polymerization spells that's banished during your graveyard, which is really good because it can actually shuffle back your Frightfur fusion, which is a really good effect to be able to just get that card back into the deck so you can use it over and over again, which is really, really nice. We then play a single copy of Fluffal Sheep. Fluffal Sheep is a good 1-of in my opinion, because it has the ability that if you control a Fluffal monster, then you can special summon this card from your hand, and then return one of your other Fluffal monsters that you control to their hand, and then special summon an Yugioh monster from your hand or graveyard, which is a great effect, especially to combo with Fluffal Dog, to bounce that card back to your hand so that you can normal summon it on the following turn to be able to get an additional search, which is a really, really powerful effect to be able to use in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Yugioh Chain. Yugioh Chain is absolutely insane, that when this card declares an attack, you can add another copy of this card from your deck to your hand, and if it's sent from your hand or field to the graveyard, then you can add a Frightfur card from your deck to your hand, and you can only use this effect once per turn, which is a really powerful effect to basically just get additional copies of this card and be able to search one of the best cards in the deck for Frightfur Patchwork. We then play 2 copies of Yugioh Scythe. I did consider playing 3 copies of this card, but 2 seemed to work out the best for me, and it has the ability that during your opponent's main phase quick effect, you can reveal this card in your hand, and then you get to fusion summon a Frightfur fusion monster from your X deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion material, including this card in your hand, which is a really awesome effect that you basically can fusion summon without even using polymerization with this card. And if a Frightfur fusion monster you control would be destroyed by battle or by card effect, you manage this card from your graveyard instead, which adds another level of protection to the deck, which is really, really nice. We then play a single copy of Yugioh Sabers. Yugioh Sabers is a good 1-of in the deck because it just keeps coming back over and over again with its insanely powerful effect, as you just place a card from your hand on the top of the deck and then special summon this card from the graveyard in defense position, which is a really awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just really good to stop the opponent from searching the deck and being able to touch the deck at all, which is really, really great. And then we play 3 copies of Maxi because it's at 3 in Master Duel, and one of the most powerful hand traps ever created, that during either player's turn, you send this card from your hand to the graveyard, and then this turn, each time your opponent special summons, you get to draw a card, which is really, really good. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing some extremely powerful fusion spells, starting out with the most powerful one of all, Super Polymerization, which we're playing as a 2 of in this deck. This card is absolutely nuts. It can break so many boards, especially with it being the Fusion Festival. This card is extremely powerful. All you have to do is discard a card, and then you get to Fusion Summon using cards from either player's field, which is really, really nuts. And we have some super powerful Super Poly targets in the extra deck. We then play a single copy of Frightfur Repair. Frightfur Repair is a good card to send to graveyard off your copy of Cruel Whale because it has the ability that you get to target a Frightfur fusion monster in the graveyard and return to the extract, and then you can special summon a Fluffal or an Edging monster from the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just use if you hard draw into this card, but you're usually going to send it to the graveyard, and it has the ability to manage this card from your graveyard and then special a Fluffal or a Frightfur monster, or Fluffal or Edging monster from your hand, which is a pretty good effect to be able to just get an additional monster like your copy of Fluffal Dog onto your side of the field so you can start getting those searches. We then play a single copy of Frightfur Fusion. Frightfur Fusion is basically Miracle Fusion for the deck that lets you banish the materials to summon a Frightfur Fusion monster from your extract by banishing those materials listed on it from your field or graveyard, which is a really, really awesome effect. We then play 3 copies of Frightfur Patchwork. Frightfur Patchwork lets us add an Edging monster and a Polymerization from our deck to our hand, which is just absolutely crazy in this deck to be able to search 2 cards like a copy of your Edging Chain and your copy of Polymerization, that then if you use the Edging Chain as a fusion material, you just get to grab another copy of this card for the following turn to set you up for another fusion play, which is really, really nuts. We then play 3 copies of Polymerization. Polymerization lets you fusion summon, so you've got to play 3 copies of it in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Foolish Burial Goods is a great 3 of in the deck because it lets you send from your deck to the graveyard Toy Vendor, which is a really good card to send to the graveyard because it has the ability that once per turn you can discard a card and then draw a card and show it to your opponent, and if it's a Fluffal monster, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. Otherwise, you discard the card you drew. And if this card is sent to the graveyard, you get to add an Edgem Sabers or a Fluffal monster from your deck to your hand, effectively turning Foolish Burial Goods into a Rhoda for the entire deck, which is really, really great. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Fluffal Cruel Whale. This card is an absolute beast of a boss monster. It has the ability that it just takes an Edging monster plus a Fluffal monster to summon this card. And as fusion summon, you can destroy 1 card on both players' fields. And then once per turn, quick effect, you can target a fusion monster that you control and send a Frightfur card from your deck or extra deck to the graveyard, except another copy of this card. And if you do, the targeted monster gains attack equal to half of the original attack until the end of this turn. But since it says Frightfur card, you can actually send spells and traps, which is really neat. We then play 2 copies of Frightfur Sabertooth, which is an insanely powerful boss monster for the deck that has the ability that takes a Frightfur fusion monster plus a Fluffal or an Edgent monster to summon this card. And when this card is fusion summoned, you can target a Frightfur monster in the graveyard and special summon it. And all Frightfur monsters you control gain 400 attack points, and if this card was fusion summoned using 3 or more fusion materials, it cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is a really, really good effect to be able to protect this card from card effects or battle, which is just absolutely insane that it boosts up all your monsters so big, but also protects itself from being destroyed by battle or by card effects. We then play 2 copies of Frightfur Tiger. Frightfur Tiger is a really awesome 2-up, especially during the Fusion Festival, with just how powerful it is, because it has the ability that when this card is fusion summoned, you can target cards on the field up to the number of fusion materials used for this card's fusion summon and destroy them. And all Frightfur monsters you control gain 300 attack points for each Fluffal monster and Frightfur monster that you control. And you can only control 1 copy of Tiger. Yeah, play the second copy in the deck because sometimes you will want that second copy to just pop additional cards on the field, which is always nice, but being able to boost all your monsters up is just absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of Frightfur Kraken. Frightfur Kraken is really good because it can attack twice, and then once per turn you can target a monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard, which is a pretty good effect, but it can't attack directly the turn you activate this effect, which is a pretty good effect that basically can just get rid of something, but also can attack twice for 2200. But with your copies of your Tiger and your Sabretooth, it's going to get a lot bigger than 2200. We then play a single copy of Wolf because given the chance, we're going to OTK with Wolf because Wolf can attack equal to the number of materials that are put into it. This card, I can attack with it like a bunch of times in this deck. Like the most I think I've ever put into this card with Frightfur Fusion is like 10 different cards into this card, which is just absolutely insane to put 10 cards into this card and attack that many times. It's just absolutely insane. You usually only need about 5 attacks with this card and you're going to OTK, but you're going to use Frightfur Fusion to make this card to then go in for game. We then play a single copy of Frightfur Sheep. Frightfur Sheep is a good one-up because it has the ability. This card battles, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon this card, and if you do, it gains 800 attack points, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn. I only play a single copy of this card because it specifically requires a Gem Chain to be able to fusion summon into this card, and usually you only need a single copy of this card anyways. We then play for our Super Poly targets a single copy of Starving Venom Fusion Dragon because it's just a really good card during the Fusion Festival with Super Poly. One copy of Dracostapelia. Dracostapelia is really good because this card basically just takes a fusion plus a dark monster, which is all that's running around during the Fusion Festival anyways. So this card is a great one-of in this deck. We then play a single copy of Masquerade because Despia is running around all over the place, and it just takes a light or a dark monster plus any Despia card to make this card, and sometimes you can close out games with this card, which is really nice. A single copy of Winda for the Super Poly target because sometimes you will be going up against Shaddolls, so this card is really good to be able to out their fields. And then finally, a single copy of Invoked Caliga. Caliga is a good one-of because, again, you're going to be going up against a lot of Invoked, Shaddol, and Despia during this particular festival. So this card is a really good one-of to midway through their turn, get rid of that copy of Alistair with a copy of Super Poly, which is always really nice. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really awesome deck. It's super fun to be able to OTK the opponent with this deck, especially with cards like Wolf. They can just attack so many times and just go in for game. And when it's boosted up with like a copy of Sabretooth and your Tiger, you're going to have so many OTKs, and it's so easy to OTK in this deck. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.